brothers and sisters, to increase your iman. Read the miracle, recite the Qur'an. Recite it every day and do read it loud. The verses of Qur'an are all Muslims' pride. This miracle was revealed over a long time span, sent from Allah to an angel, then to a man. That man was Muhammad, the best of creation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wal aqibatu lil muttaqeen, wa la udwana illa ala al-zalimin, was salatu was salamu ala sayyidil awwalina wal akhirin, Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Dear viewers everywhere, once again welcome you to a new episode of Correct Your Recitation. And today, inshallah, I would like to welcome our guests in the studio, Ibrahim, all the way from Russia. Assalamu alaikum, Ibrahim.
Wa alaikum salam.
Smir from Bosnia, and of course we got to know Zachary last time from Miami, Florida, originally from Ecuador. Good to see you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh Ismail last time recited for us the entire surah, Surat Al-Fajr, the Makki surah of Surat Al-Fajr, which consists of 30 verses. We got to shed some light on some of its verses from the beginning, particularly the verses which contain oath. And we said the subject of the oath in all, the oath that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used in this chapter is actually the oath themselves. Al-Fajr, the dawn, Layalin Ashr, the first 10 nights of the month of Dhul Hijjah, or the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan, the first 10 days of the month of Dhul Hijjah, or the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. وَالشَّفْعِ وَالْوَتْرِ, that everything Allah has created is in pairs. وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, as we studied before. And the only one is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also the prayers themselves, some are even and some are odd, such as the Witr and the Maghrib prayer consists of 3 rak'ahs. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَسْرِ, and he swore by the night as it departs. And we addressed the significance of the last portion of the night, especially وَبِالْأَسْحَارِ هُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ, asking Allah for forgiveness and invoking Him at the last part of the night before Fajr. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in verse number 5, هَلْ فِي ذَلِكَ قَسَمٌ لِذِي حِجْرٍ, which means there is indeed enough and sufficient proofs for men of understanding in the above oaths. Al-Fajr wa layalin ashr wa shafi'i wal-watr wa layli idha yasr. In verse number 6, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beginning a new subject, which is, He is quoting upon us some of the stories of the ancient nations, in which are scattered all over the Qur'an. In many chapters, some chapters were even named after a prophet of certain people, like Hud, Yunus, Jonah. There is a whole chapter called Hud, and Prophet Hud was the prophet who was appointed or sent to the people of Ad, which is mentioned in this chapter in verse number 7, إِرَمَ ذَاتِ الْعِمَادِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in another verse, وَإِلَى عَادٍ أَخَاهُمْ هُودًا, and we have sent the prophet Hud to the people of Ad, and he expressed about it by, we have appointed أَخَاهُمْ هُودًا, their brother. He is one of them. He is not an alien. He is not of a different creation. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ فَعَلَ رَبُّكَ بِعَادٍ. Have you not seen, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with the people of Ad, whom Allah sent to them Prophet Hud, when they disobeyed, when they belied their prophet, when they challenged the miracles and the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Have you not seen how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with them? In this surah, in this chapter, Surah Al-Fajr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will address the stories of 3 nations. The people of Ad, the like of which was not created in any city before, of their strength, of their power, and the nation of Thamud, and their prophet was Prophet Salih, peace be upon him, and the people of the Pharaoh of Egypt, and their prophet was Prophet Moses, peace be upon all of them. In the 3 stories, there is something in common, which is there was an instant or an immediate punishment in this life. There are other nations which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala postponed their punishment to the hereafter. But for such nations, they share one fact, which is that they were all punished in this life, as we will get to know from this chapter, along with other verses which will explain to us what was the fate of the three nations. First of all, the nation of Ad, or the people of Ad. أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ فَعَلَ رَبُّكَ بِعَادٍ إِرَمَ ذَاتِ الْعِمَادِ. So the word Iram and ذَاتِ الْعِمَادِ is an extra explanation. Iram is the name of the tribe which used to live in Hadramaut in Yemen. That is the people of Ad. ذَاتِ الْعِمَادِ, with very tall and lofty pillars. With very tall and lofty pillars. التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد. Which means the like of which were never created in the land. And this is a very significant verse, because Egyptians are proud of their ancient civilization. And historians and scientists, when they study the pharaonic and the ancient Egyptian civilization, they say that it was the most advanced. But the Qur'an says otherwise. The Qur'an says that you guys see those lofty pyramids, amazing structure, how it was built and put together. It is amazing, isn't it? But guess what? There was more advanced nation, much more powerful, the nation of Prophet Hud, Ad. What happened to them? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala erased them from the face of the earth. Did not leave any of their traces. So that means if you like what you see concerning the people of the Pharaoh and the ancient Egyptian civilization, that's nothing compared to other nations such as the nation of Ad. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed them completely from the face of the earth, which is a significant indication of Allah's magnificent power. Same thing can happen to every arrogant nation or people. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take them in no time, overnight. As we will see in Surat Al-Haqqah. Al-Haqqah is in the 29th part of the Qur'an, and is also one of the names of the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ وَعَادٌ بِالْقَارِعَةِ. The people of Thamud and the people of Ad, the people of Prophet Salih and the people of Prophet Hud, they both belied the fact that there will be a Day of Judgment. And what happened to them? فَأَمَّا ثَمُودُ فَأُهْلِكُوا بِالطَّاغِيَةِ. As a result of their denial and disbelief, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them with al-taghiyah, which is an out loud cry. One scream, they were all dead. And وَأَمَّا عَادٌ. What about the people of Prophet Hud? How were they destroyed? وَأَمَّا عَادٌ فَأُهْلِكُوا بِرِيحٍ صَرْصَرٍ عَاتِيَةٍ. They were destroyed with a very violent wind. It produced a very scary sound, which was much louder than the thunder. So violent wind has no mercy whatsoever, and it left nothing out of them. As a matter of fact, the Qur'an says this wind did not just last for overnight or a day or two. سَخَّرَهَا عَلَيْهِمْ سَبْعَ لَيَالٍ وَثَمَانِيَةَ أَيَّامٍ حُسُومًا. 7 nights and 8 days with no mercy whatsoever. After that, they vanished. They were completely erased from the face of the earth. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَهَلْ تَرَى لَهُم مِّن بَاقِيَةٍ. Do you see any of the remains? They're all gone. So one have to be very careful. And you have to understand that whom you're dealing with. You're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَتَرَى الْقَوْمَ فِيهَا صَرْعَى كَأَنَّهُمْ أَعْجَازُ نَخْلٍ خَاوِيَةٍ. After the wind calmed down, that all the people of Ad were dead. They were like the dead trunks of dead palm trees. There was life one day in the city. There were people who were building and carving their houses in the mountains. Very powerful people, very advanced society. What happened to them? Gone with the wind by the leave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد, in verse number 8, that the like of which was not created in any other city. What happened to them? They're gone, destroyed, utterly destroyed. In verse number 9, وَثَمُودَ الَّذِينَ جَابُوا الصَّخْرَ بِالْوَادِ, and the people of Sayyiduna Salih were named Thamud. What happened to them? They used to carve or cut out their houses in the mountains. As a matter of fact, their remains are still there. And when you see their houses and how they were carved, and the rooms and bedrooms inside the mountain and in the rocks, this is really amazing. And they did not have the advanced tools and carving machines like we have today. So how did they used to do that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with this power, yet they disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah deprived them from all of that, and He destroyed them. The third nation was the nation of the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh himself claimed that he's the Lord. He said, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. He said, I'm your Lord, the Most High. وَفِرْعَوْنَ ذِي الْأَوْتَادِ. The word أوتاد means pegs, because the Pharaoh used to torture his opponents by tying them or crucifying them against pegs, or the trunks of the palm trees, etc. Or also some of the Mufassirin said that he has great hosts or army that kept firm his kingdom and his domain like pegs were keeping firm a tent, for instance. الَّذِينَ طَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ. That's verse number 11. But it is not only referring to the Pharaoh. الَّذِينَ طَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ means who transgressed beyond bounds in the land. So basically this verse is referring to the Pharaoh and his hosts. Is referring to the people of Thamud, and is referring also to the people of Ad. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَظْلِمُ النَّاسَ شَيْئًا وَلَكِنَّ النَّاسَ أَنفُسَهُمْ يَظْلِمُونَ. Allah does not wrong people on earth. Allah is the most just, and He is the most merciful. Yet it is people who wrong themselves and who do injustice to themselves, who hurt themselves. So if anybody incurred Allah's wrath or anger, it is because of his evil doing. فَأَكْثَرُوا فِيهَا الْفَسَادِ, and they made therein much corruption and mischief. As a result of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hastened His punishment, and He descended His anger upon them. فَصَبَّ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّكَ سَوْطَ عَذَابٍ. I want you to pay close attention to this ayah. He said, فَصَبَّ literally means He poured on them different kinds of severe torment. As we say, the people of Ad were destroyed with the wind, with the violent wind. And the people of Thamud were destroyed with the out loud cry, with a sayha. And you all know how the Pharaoh and his hosts were destroyed. They were obviously destroyed by being drowned in the sea. The only person whose body or deceased was saved was the Pharaoh himself, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, فَالْيَوْمَ نُنَجِّيكَ بِبَدَنِكَ لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً. And there is a great sign in saving his body, that the water of the sea expelled the body of Ramses II, if they think it is him, or the Pharaoh, as the Qur'an says, expelled him to the shore, where his body was taken and was kept until today. So people go and see the mummy of this person, or the monuments of the Pharaoh and his people, or the pharaonic civilizations, or the people of Thamud. These are all admonitions for people who have heed, for people who reflect, to remember that such people were very powerful, were very advanced one day, but because of their disobedience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala eradicated them, and He poured on them different kinds of severe torment. Why? Because إِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَبِالْمِرْصَادِ. Your Lord is indeed ever watchful over them. No one should ever think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unaware of what we do, even behind closed doors. It is only a matter of either a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or He gives a postponement to the disobedient ones and the disbelievers, so that whenever He seizes them, He seizes them without mercy. إِنَّ أَخْذَهُ أَلِيمٌ شَدِيدٌ. But after they have finished the entire account, and they are not eligible for mercy anymore. And now there is another segment in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will address some of the human traits human being in general, we have some bad and evil traits within our genes. It's instilled in ourselves, such as being greedy, such as being selfish, such as being frightful if anything bad happened to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with that in various verses in the Qur'an, and He prescribed the treatment. How can you purify yourself? How can you be different from the normal or regular human being who possess such evil traits? في سورة المعارج, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ خُلِقَ هَلُوعًا. Mankind is created in a state of fear. He is always frightened. Except, then He described the traits of those who will be saved from those evil traits. In this chapter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in verse number 15. Let me pull it out first. Verse number 15. فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانَنِ. In fact, as for man, when his Lord tries him with giving him an honor or a gift that seems to be worldly, normally an average person would think that God loves him or he is lucky if he receives any prosperity, or if he is healthy, or if he receives any worldly gain, right? To the extent if somebody finds $100 bill, he didn't do anything for it, he just found it in the street. They say, lucky me, right? So regular people, average people would think that they're lucky if they possess any worldly gain. فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ. But before we go any further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ. If his Lord tries him with what? With prosperity, with health, with anything that is worldly. That is a test, that is a trial. فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ. He's proud, he's happy. He says, my Lord have honored me. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, in Surat Al-Anbiya, in verse number 35, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ وَنَبْلُوكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً وَإِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ. We got to keep in mind this verse number 35 of chapter Al-Anbiya, or the Prophets. Every soul shall taste death, and we shall try you with evil as well as with good. Why? In order to try you and test you. فِتْنَةً وَإِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ. And Allah says, and unto us, unto Allah, you shall come back. So in fact, tests and trials could be by both adversity or its opposite, prosperity. It could be by sickness, disease, or an ailment, or its opposite, which is health and fitness. It could be by good events or bad events. You never know. And after I finish the next verse, I will quote a hadith which would summon all what I said. وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانَنِ. But when his Lord tries him, وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ, the first verse in the case of prosperity, he said, فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ. But in this one, the pronoun refers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without mentioning the word رَبُّهُ. وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ means رَبُّهُ. As for him, if his Lord tries him and tests him, فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ. So he strained or tightened his provision. He gave him some adversity, some poverty, a lack of provision. فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانًا. We hear that a lot. If somebody is laid off, if somebody lost his money in the stock market, If somebody, just a few days ago, somebody contacted me over the phone because he is bankrupt. He lost his entire money in the stock market. So you know what crossed his mind first? He approached his daughter when she was asleep and he tried to kill her, then kill his wife and kill himself. Why? Because he believes that God hates him and he's no good anymore, and life cannot continue without this fund. He cannot survive without this wealth. So he doesn't deserve to live. Everything blacked out before his eyes. Why? Such person, even though he might be praying, but he's not really praying spiritually, physically only. So whenever he's tested, he blacks out. He loses hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he totally despairs. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in verse number 16. وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا بِتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانًا. And he says, my Lord has humiliated me. How do you know? How do you know, Zachary, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you when you get a good job? Or when you receive a raise, or you get promoted, or. How do you know? Maybe it's just a test. And how do you know that when you get sick, this is a sign that God is not happy with you? When you get laid off or fired, that means God is not pleased with you. How do you know? The Prophet ﷺ answers this question by a very beautiful prophetic statement. He says, how excellent is the case of the believer. عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ. He says, whenever he's touched with good, he is thankful and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ سَرَّاءُ شَكَرْ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. And that will be good for him. As far as if he's been tested with adversity, with any calamity, what will happen? What will be his behavior? وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاءُ صَبَرْ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. And that too is good for him. So if he's tested with adversity, he is patient. He does not complain about Allah to anybody else. He does not blame Allah for whatever happened. He does not say, this is it, life is over. Rather, he is patient, and that too is good for him. And no one other than the believer really behaves like that. So the trait of the believer in cases of tests, whether with good or bad, is he is grateful if he's been given any prosperity, and he is patient if he's been tested with any adversity or calamity. كَلَّا بَلْ لَا تُكْرِمُونَ الْيَتِيمِ. The above description is a description of a person who is away from Allah, whose nature is, he is selfish. He is very selfish. Life for him is summarized and is limited to only one arena, which is myself and myself. He does not think about anything but himself. Nay, this is an evil nature, but you treat not the orphans with kindness and generosity. بَلْ لَا تُكْرِمُونَ الْيَتِيمِ. Look around you. There are many people who are unfortunate with regards to worldly possessions, with regards to worldly gains, with regards to wealth, such as orphans who lost their family father, their provider of humans. What happened to them? You do not pay attention to them. You do not rush to help them. That's why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned particularly in a sound hadith, أَنَا وَكَافِلُ الْيَتِيمِ فِي الْجَنَّةِ هَكَذَا. And in another dialect or narration he said, أَنَا وَكَافِلُ الْيَتِيمِ فِي الْجَنَّةِ كَهَاتَيْنِ. هَكَذَا or كَهَاتَيْنِ, pointing with the middle and the index finger, indicates the closeness which will be between the Prophet ﷺ and a person who looks after an orphan, who sponsors him financially and spiritually, who raises an orphan after his father dies until he grows up or until she grows up. He will occupy such a very close position nearby the Prophet ﷺ in heaven. وَلَا تَحَاضُّونَ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. And that's another bad or evil trait. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the evil traits, He means also to warn us against them and to order us to have the opposite traits. So وَلَا تَحَاضُّونَ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ in verse number 18, and you urge not the feeding of the miskin. And that too was mentioned in Surat Al-Ma'un. So this is an evil trait. Such person does not think about the orphans, does not think about the poor, nor does he urge others to feed them, to look after them. وَتَأْكُلُونَ التُّرَاثَ أَكْلًا لَمَّا. If a person is very selfish, like this case which we're studying, then whenever one of his or her relatives die, they would not hesitate to devour his entire inheritance and try to deprive others. And you all know that Islam was the only doctrine which stated a share of the inheritance and a fixed share for the woman, as a mother, as a sister, as a wife, as a daughter. She has a share. لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. And in many cases, sometimes a female would get the same share like a male, or sometimes even greater than the male, depending on her relationship to the heir or the person, the person who passed away. In the past, and until recently in many nations, even European nations, that if the person dies, even his wife would get nothing of his inheritance. But Islam stated a fixed right for the female in the inheritance of the person who passes away, and he criticized those who would devour the part or the portion which belongs either to a female or an orphan or youngsters who cannot get their share of the inheritance. And another evil trait in verse number 20, وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. And you love wealth with much love. This is not the trait of the true believers, who understand that everyone in this life will only get a share that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already preordained for him or her. And you will get nothing extra nor less. After that, in the following verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will interrupt talking about the greed and selfishness of human beings in general, and would remind us with the fate of the hereafter and what will happen, and the entire wealth of this dunya would not avail us an aught. So we better be careful and focus on what will benefit us in this life, and know how to utilize this wealth which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon us, in order to have a big asset with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter that will lead to our salvation, insha'Allah azza jal. Insha'Allah, in the next episode, we'll get to continue to the end of the surah, the meaning of the remaining verses of this great surah, Surat Al-Fajr. But for now, we'll take a short break and we'll resume after that, so stay tuned.
Recite it every day and do read it loud.
The Philosophy of Islamic Law, a program for restoring belief and trust within Muslims' mind and heart, and for re-establishing a true concept about Islamic rules for others.
Amazing stories. In this program, we get to know about people of the past whose stories were mentioned in the Islamic tradition and related by the Prophet, peace be upon him.
That verily us, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we tell you about the best of the stories. We tell you about the best of the stories. When we narrate a story, when we read a story, when we try to benefit from a story, what we are trying to do in reality is to go back through the steps, through the different parts and sections of this story until the story is actually completed, and that we can take the actual benefit directly from the story.
Sheikh Lutfi will narrate these stories in his program Amazing Stories.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered one of the lands to come closer, the destination. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered one whole city to come closer, to move closer to this dead person.
Be proactive. Dr. Haytham Al-Haddad teaches us how to take a conscious control over our life, set our goals and work to achieve them in Islam. Take firm steps towards your future. Be positive and be proactive.
Every single Muslim needs to have in order to be an effective person.
So proactivity in Islam, how to serve our religion and how to serve our life and our guides through all of this.
The proactive person is always motivated. The proactive person always have high ambition. The proactive person, he will not lose his time. He will not waste his time. The proactive person is a generous person.
Recite it every day and do read it loud.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. In the last episode, we spoke about al-mad, or lengthening, and we spent some time covering al-mad al-tabi'i, or the original mad, and the length of the count, which is 2 counts or 2 harakas, by counting 1, 2, by folding or unfolding the fingers. And we learned the cases in which we say this is a mad tabi'i or mad asli, original or natural. There are other cases where also the mad count will be 2 counts, such as in a case which is known as ha'ul kinaya or mad as-silat as-sughra. Mad as-silat as-sughra. I will explain inshallah so that it will be very clear to you. The mad, which is known as the lesser connection mad. First of all, I have to give an introduction to ha'ul kinaya. It is the ha of the pronoun of the third person who is a male or masculine. Such as when I say bihi. Bihi means with it or with him. Him, that is the ha of the third person. Or alayhi, on him. Or minhu, from him. So that ha by the end of the word is not of the original structure of the word. Rather, it's an extra ha as a ha of the pronoun in order to indicate, I mean the third masculine person. The ha of the pronoun. Like in English when we say his, qalam. Qalam means pen, right? So if I want to say his pen, let's say what, Samir?
His pen.
In Arabic.
Qalam.
Qalamuhu.
Qalamuhu.
Her pen.
Her pen.
Qalamuha. Right? And for dual, qalamuhuma. Zakaria, you started already your Arabic course, right?
Yeah.
Qalamuhum for plural. So the ha, in addition to either the alif or the mim by the end, would shape the pronoun. Make it either for the third person masculine or feminine or dual or plural. Right? We're only concerned today about the ha, which refers to the third person who is masculine. Alayhi, bihi, minhu, fihi. So it is the mad that comes from the ha of the Arabic pronoun. And it should meet the following conditions. So whenever we see a ha that meets the following conditions, which we'll discuss right now, right away we say, this is ha'ul kinaya, and there is a mad letter that is mahdhuf, or taken off in the writing, whether you recite or you stop, but it is already stated in the sound. There are some letters not to be written, but you say them or you pronounce them while reciting. This is one of the cases which we call it mahdhuf, mad letter. But we say it if it meets the conditions. Obviously, giving examples, especially with the PowerPoint, will make it very easy to understand what we're talking about here. The ha of that pronoun of the third person should be by the end of the word. It should be the last letter of the word. It should not be a part of the original structure of the word. It should not be a part of the original structure of the word. And it should represent a singular, masculine, third person. Okay? Two more conditions. It should be voweled. The ha itself, ha'ul kinaya, or the ha of the pronoun. It must be voweled, either with dhamma or with kasra, and it should be positioned between two vowel letters. So if the preceding letter or the following letter, which obviously will be in the next word, happen to be sakin or non-voweled, then this word, there will not be mad there. It will be just a regular ha, even if it is a ha of the pronoun of the third masculine person. And it should not be followed by hamza. That is the last condition. Because if it is followed by hamza, that would lead us to a greater silah mad. But we're talking about the mad, which you will only have to make two counts, 1, 2. In this slide, we see the following words. عليها. What does it mean? Smear. عليها.
عليها.
Now, on her. On her. So this ha, which is highlighted with red zakari, is not our ha. We're not talking about this ha. We're talking about the ha of the masculine. عليهما. That is the ha of the dual. عليهما. Because hima or huma indicates the pronoun of the dual. عليهم, plural for masculine. عليهن, plural for feminine. So we're not talking about this ha. In this example, قالوا يا شعيب ما نفقه كثيرا مما تقول. Okay, we got it. There is the word نفقه. You see this ha, Zakari? The red ha? Oh. And it is preceded by a vowel letter and followed by a vowel letter. And it is the last letter of the word. And the ha itself has a dhamma. Great. But guess what? This is not our ha. This is a ha which is a letter of the original structure of the word. نفقه from فقه or فقه, which is fahm. So this is not the ha of the pronoun to begin with. We'll skip this example. وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. In Surat Al-Rahman, the word wajhu. This ha, smear, and Ibrahim, is a letter of the original structure of the word wajh. Wajh, which means face. And in Surat Maryam, لَإِن لَمْ تَنْتَهِ لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ. تَنْتَهِ. The ha is not the ha of the pronoun. It's a ha of the original structure of the word. So none of the above examples will apply مد الصلة الصغرى in any of them, because the ha basically is a letter of the structure or the original structure of the word. In this example, in this slide, we see typical ha al-kinaya, or the ha of the third masculine person. Bihi, the ha itself is the ha of the pronoun, and it is voweled with kasra and preceded by a vowel. And that's why I will assume that is followed by a vowel letter as well. You see this backward ya, it is to indicate that you have to apply mad tabi'i, 2 counts. And this mad would assume that there is a mad letter there. We'll take 2 counts, similar to al-mad tabi'i, of the same nature of the vowel. So if it is kasra, then there will be the mad letter of the ya. And if it is dhamma, look here in the last example, the ha is with a pesh or dhamma. And that's why when we apply mad, the mad letter will be waw, similar to the vowel itself, which is a dhamma. So in the second example, I would say من بعده وأنتم. I did apply med 2 counts. Watch with me. من بعده وأنتم. Right? That's called مد الصلة الصغرى. And by the way, that too is called مد طبيعي. Do you know why? Because if we stop at the word, at this ha, then we'll apply sukoon. So we will go back to its original nature, which is sakin letter, and would not apply any med. So I will say in this second example, min ba'dih, no med. No med. So it would be called tabi'i, because if we stop, we go back to the original condition. Last example, the ha of the pronoun has pesh or dhamma, and that's why the med letter will be the waw, 2 counts. I will say ثُمَّ يُحَرِّفُونَهُ. Okay? Before we continue with the example, I would like to examine the ha. It is vowed itself. And it is the ha of the pronoun. يُحَرِّفُونَهُ. It is referring to their book. They alter it. They change it. And the letter before the ha of the pronoun or ha al-kinaya is vowed. And the ha is the last letter of the word. And it is followed by a vowel letter. So that's why I have to apply the med 2 counts. I say يُحَرِّفُونَهُ مِن بَعْدِ مَا عَقَلُوهُ. Okay? I believe in this slide we'll take 2 more examples. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. الرحمن فاسأل به خبيرا. So every time, Zachary, you see this little wow following a ha, or this little backward ya following a ha with kasra, obviously, you remember that there is mad 2 counts, similar to al-mad al-tabi'i, by folding or unfolding 2 of your fingers. That's called mad al-silat al-sughra or ha'u al-kinaya. There are some exceptions of mad al-silati al-sughra, such as, according to Hafs and other reciters of the Qur'an, obviously we're studying tajweed according to the dialect of Hafs. This example, وَإِن تَشْكُرُوا يَرْضَهُ لَكُمْ. That is the only exception where the ha actually meets all the conditions, but he says he would not apply the med there. It will be recited as a regular ha, even though it is ha'ul kinaya, preceded and followed by vowel letters. It is the last letter of the word, and it is vowel itself. The second example is the opposite. It should be one of the exceptions, because the word fihi, look at it, smear. The ha is vowel, and it is the ha of the kinaya. Correct. And the following letter is vowel, but the preceding letter is non-vowel. It is a ya, it is a sakina. وَيَخْلُدْ فِيهِ مُهَانًا. So it should be accepted, and it should be made as one of the exceptions. We should not apply med there. But because this verse is to reproach whoever disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands and to deter others from doing the same, Hafs as well as Ibn Kathir, may Allah have mercy on them, applied the med there in order to make you feel that the person who disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يَخْلُدْ فِيهِ مُهَانًا, in Surah Al-Furqan, that he will remain therein eternally humiliated and with disgrace, like he belongs there. Well, after that, inshallah azza, we'd like to go back to Surat Al-Fajr, and hopefully the beginning of Surat Al-Balad. We'll begin by Ibrahim. We'll recite from verse number 15 of Surat Al-Fajr. آية رقم 15. فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه. And we'll examine the ahkam as we read by. I would like to remind the viewers with our phone numbers area code 002 02 38 382 555 248 or 249. Ibrahim is coming all the way from Russia and he's studying Islamic studies, so he will recite inshallah from verse number 15. Ibrahim, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن.
We'll go one verse back because the number follows the verse, it does not precede it. So we'll go one line above, which is فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ. Okay?
فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن.
We notice here that we have مد الصلة الصغرى or هاء الكناية twice. Actually, 3 times in these 2 verses which Ibrahim just recited. You look at the verse فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ. Right? There is a little wow. Oh, this is an indication that there is a mad similar to al-mad al-tabi'i, 2 counts, حركتين. And this ha, Rabbuhu, means his Lord. So it is the ha of the pronoun. And it is voweled and preceded by a vowel letter and followed by a vowel letter. And it is the last letter of its word. And it is not of the original structure of the word. So this is called Maddu Silat al-Sughra, the lesser. Do you know why it's called the lesser? Because it is not followed by Hamza. If it is followed by Hamza, that we'll study next time, that will be a different type of mad. But until now, it will be only 2 counts. Similarly, فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ. There is another مد صلة. وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ. 2 counts. And in the following ayah, فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانًا. Okay? So now we have 4 examples in 2 verses. Yusuf from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Yusuf?
I'm doing very fine.
Do me a favor and mute your TV, please.
Pardon?
Lower the volume on your TV set or mute it completely.
Okay.
Okay, you got it. Now go ahead and recite from verse number 15 again, please. فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ. Okay, Jazakallahu khairan. We lost brother Yusuf, but we get to know his name. Great. Ibrahim, continue please. وَأَمَّا.
وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن.
طيب, let me ask you, Smear. The word فقدر عليه رزقه. This ha, عليه, right? It is the ha of the pronoun. It is voweled. It is followed by a vowel letter. It is the last letter of its word. And it is not of the original structure of the word because it is the ha of the pronoun. So how come there is no maddu sila there, and nor do we see the backward yet? Why not? I almost mentioned all the conditions which we met except for one, which is the preceding letter. Look one letter before the ha. It's ya. What's on it? Sukun. So the preceding letter is not voweled, and that's why we cannot apply mad there, because one of the conditions is missing. Okay? Continue, Ibrahim.
كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا
صفا صفا. The صاد is a fat letter and it is one of the letters of al-isti'la. صفا صفا
صفا صفا.
Okay, جزاك الله خيرا. أم كلثوم, السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
Go ahead and continue, sister, from verse number 22. وجاء ربك.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان فأنى له الذكرى.
وأن, it is واو not فاء.
وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد.
Great, but don't pause at the idgham. It's idgham but without غنة. فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد.
فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية.
It's a dad. It's a dad, Kulthum, not dal. راضية مرضية.
يرجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي.
فتح الله عليك. Thank you so much. Okay, Smir. The beginning of Surah Al-Balad, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد.
ما شاء الله. I'd like to listen to the same part also from Zakaria because we're approaching the end of the program. From the beginning.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد.
لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد.
لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يراه أحد.
جزاك الله خيرا. Unfortunately, this is all the time we got for us in today's episode. I wrap it up by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pardon us and forgive us our sins and teach us what we don't know and help us to act upon what we have learned. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Until next time, I leave you in peace. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brothers and sisters, to increase your iman, read the miracle, recite the Qur'an. Recite it every day and do read it loud. The verses of Qur'an are all Muslims' pride. This miracle was revealed over a long time span, sent from Allah to an angel, then to a man. That man was Muhammad, the best of creation. We were chosen to be part of his nation. He gave us a message, and that was Islam. So read this miracle, recite the Qur'an.